President Trump is easing tariffs on ground beef with a plan to import up to 300,000 metric tons to counter beef prices that stand at nearly $7 a pound.
Yet again, here's Trump failing spectacularly at the affordability crisis that he started. But it could be much worse than that. Not only is he failing, but he is betraying cattle ranchers and likely putting our health at risk.
We want to get the beef prices down, so we'll get them down a little bit. And that's what people want, that's what the voters want, and that's what I want. The ranchers are great. They're my people. I love the ranchers. They've done a fantastic job, but they admit that we need a little help and in order to get the prices down. So that's what we're doing.
Mr. President, on the beef deal, which countries did you make that deal with? What are the sources of the beef deal?
I don't want to say which countries, but there are a few countries, but they're going to be sending in the highest quality beef, and it's something that we need.
Yikes. Usually when Trump insists on something, it means that he's lying about it. So I'm not buying that that's going to be the highest quality beef. And Trump claims that this mystery beef will be sold to the US with no tariffs and at a 25% discount, but it's unclear if the consumer will see any of those discounts themselves.
Many American beef ranchers say the move will do more harm than good, instead pointing to 4 meatpacking plants that control 85% of the supply. One of those ranchers, beef ranchers, joins us now. Casey Parker is the founder of the American Rancher Alliance, and she has a different idea of why beef prices have skyrocketed. Great to see you. Thanks so much for being here. So first, what do you make of the president's comments last week and his plan for these imports?
Well, I mean, we're losing 66 farms and ranches a day right now, which is just absolutely insane. And there's no way that you're going to incentivize any rancher to be able to, afford or even be able to retain their heifers by undercutting them. And then if there's that 25% that he's taking off of that, the consumers are not going to see that. They're going to see pennies, maybe, because it's all going to be captured by those big foreign packers and then the distributors and the retailers. It's not doing anything but undercutting the American rancher.
What would you make of the argument that the herd still needs to catch up with demand, and this is a temporary solution to get beef prices down across the board for a large population of Americans who can't go to the grocery store and afford that beef?
I think the solution would be to cut exports by about 5% and be able to keep our beef here in America and help us retain those cattle.
There's no doubt that there's a crisis in affordability, especially when it comes to beef and groceries. And you want to know who has a solution for that? You guessed it, Mamdani.
Today, I am proud to announce a collection of essential staples that will be predictably 30% cheaper at all 5 of our city-run grocery stores. This core set of goods will include all fresh produce, meat, and seafood, along with 20 other essential items like cheese, milk, and bread. Here's how it will work. Once a month, our 5 city-run grocery stores will set prices for this core set of goods at 30% below typical retail prices. No exceptions, no gimmicks. The savings will last for the entire month. That means no weekly fluctuations nor sticker shock at the checkout line. Not for our seniors living on fixed incomes, nor for the parents who rely on a regular supply of apple slices to keep toddler tantrums at bay.
But we know that Trump and Republicans are not actually trying to address affordability. In fact, it appears to be a lot more sinister than just bad policy. But luckily, there are candidates, even outside of the DSA, that are standing on picket lines, striking with union members. One such candidate is Dan Osborne out of Nebraska. He is running for Senate as an independent, but he is backed by the Democratic Party, and he is a union organizer and has a lot to say about this particular issue.
And 300,000 tons of foreign metric ground beef flooding our markets. First of all, that's not going to save the consumer money. I'll eat my shoe if we save a bunch of money on ground beef from here on out. But it's going to hurt our ranchers, and that's why our federal delegation has come out against it. The Farm Bureau, the Farmers Union, who I've been endorsed by. They're all saying this is a rotten deal, and we'll see how it all plays out. But at the end of the day, this is going to hurt Nebraska producers, and we're first in beef. We are the beef state, and so this is hurting our guys and our women out there on the ranches.
But we can't really speak to this beef crisis without a brief explanation of what some are calling the beef cartel.
You probably know beef is getting more expensive, but do you know why? Let's take a look at the meat aisle in this grocery store. It seems like you have plenty of options, but most of this beef is processed by just 4 companies. Together, they control about 80% of the market.
I call them the beef cartel.
The Big Four haven't been convicted of any wrongdoing, but the Department of Justice is investigating how this kind of consolidation impacts what you pay. Not to mention antitrust and collusion lawsuits from retailers like Target and McDonald's. A pound of ground beef cost about $6.89 in the US on average. That's 80% more expensive than in 2019. For US cattle ranchers, you'd think high retail prices would at least translate to more profit, but they say they're feeling the squeeze too.
The more them industries consolidate, the easier it is for them to up the price and cut us out.
Droughts, high production costs, and fewer cows are pushing prices up. But that's not the whole story.
But this is where it gets even darker and possibly conspiratorial for some. But this is the age we live in now where we must question what would have been unthinkable before. But before I continue about the beef crisis, I'm going to bring up another crisis that may or may not be related.
Protected wild horses may be entering the slaughter pipeline under Trump. A New York Times investigation published Thursday found that federally protected wild horses sold through a government program may ultimately be transported across the border for slaughter. Some Mustangs are sold for as little as $25. Under the Bureau of Land Management's Sale Authority program, horses can be classified as unadoptable after attracting no interest during 3 one-week adoption listings. Once sold, they lose the protections retained by adopted horses. Initial buyers must agree not to slaughter the animals or knowingly sell them to someone who will. However, animal welfare advocates say that rule can be bypassed by reselling the horses through intermediaries who are not bound by the original agreement. Bureau of Land Management sales rose after Trump returned to office, with about 3,700 horses sold in 2025, more than twice the previous year's total. Around 73,000 wild horses live in federal lands in the West, while another 58,000 are held by the Bureau of Land Management at an annual cost of around $100 million. The government estimates that selling the horses placed in 2025 will avoid about $56 million in long-term care costs. The Interior Department said the Bureau of Land Management does not send horses or burros to slaughter and refers suspected violations to law enforcement. It says the program helps control overcrowding, protect herd health, and reduce taxpayer costs. However, critics question the economics. Capturing a Mustang can cost up to $3,000, while the animal may be sold for $25 and later fetch as much as $750 at a slaughter facility. Project 2025 called for Congress to let the Bureau of Land Management humanely dispose of excess horses and bureaus. The Trump administration's proposed 2026 budget also sought to remove restrictions on using federal funds to kill protected horses or sell them for slaughter, while cutting the program by 25%, from $145 million to $106 million. Senate appropriators rejected those changes and retained the protections, but Bureau of Land Management sales continued. Sanctuary operator Claire Staples told The Times that the agency presents slaughter as prohibited while allowing a system that can lead to the same outcome.
Now, there's no confirmed connection between this sudden mystery foreign imported beef deal and the culling and selling wild horses to slaughter, but in Trump's world, if it seems suspicious, it's probably worth looking into. And wherever you stand on the conspiracy, many are taking to the internet wondering about the timing of everything.
Am I the only one who finds it strange that this flabby orange turd is rounding up our wild horses while at the same time telling us that he's going to be importing mystery meat from fucking God knows where? Is this motherfucker about to sell us some horse meat? Are we going to be eating dog food? Is that what this is about? I think all the beef farmers can stop voting for him now. It's pretty obvious that he's working against you. He's doing nothing to mitigate climate change and drought, which has hit this industry really hard. He's put tariffs in place that have made it harder for you all to build fences, purchase machinery, feed your stock, and now multi-generational cattle farms are just closing down. And let's just face it, he's just trying to implement a temporary fix to bring down the prices of beef before the midterms. He don't give a fuck about your grocery prices. He doesn't even understand the word groceries. He don't give a fuck how much you gotta spend to feed your family. He thinks affordability is a hoax. And now the national debt has reached $40 trillion.
And even if they're not about to feed us wild horses, there are some other dangers and interesting timing overlap with this beef deal.
Like, what fucking meat was I eating? Was I eating fucking donkey meat in this bitch? Was I eating kangaroo? Was I eating fucking secretariat in this bitch? Yo, what? What? And now we got to ask these questions, right? Now we got to ask these questions. Headquarters says 30,000 pounds of imported raw beef from Argentina has been recalled after failure to reinspect following its arrival in the United States. This comes after the USDA's Food Safety and Inspection Service lost 9% of its staff last year during the Trump administration's DOGE cuts. Okay, this was 10 days ago. It was only 5 months ago that China averted disaster by rejecting contaminated beef from Argentina. On March 19th, 2026, Chinese authorities turned away a 22-ton shipment after detecting chloramphenicol, which is a chemical that they use, with serial lying psychopath Trump as president. God help us. So now we have to wonder, okay, is this beef I'm eating, is this wild horse? Or is it donkey? Is it kangaroo? Or is it beef imported from Argentina, which has a fucking toxic chemical that's pumped into it, which is a chemical banned in the US and banned in Europe, okay? Argentina is selling beef that was just rejected by China because it contains chloramphenicol, an antibiotic banned in the US, EU, Russia, and China. It can cause idiosyncratic aplastic anemia, which is not dose-dependent and can be fatal from even trace exposure in genetically susceptible individuals. Makes one wonder why Trump got a 25% discount.
And all of these things should give us pause, especially since Trump is all too willing to lie to us, especially this close to the midterms. And of course, this lie of Trump's is that this is all to keep our costs down and so that we can afford beef and groceries again. But there's a far less sinister way to keep our costs down and to achieve this mythical affordability thing that Trump calls a hoax. And that is, of course, to vote in Mamdani-style DSA candidates who have a sustainable program and sustainable policies to make us able to afford our groceries and make our groceries safe again. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to like and subscribe to USDS, as well as check out your local DSA chapter and get involved. My name is Lex Voytek, and I'll see you next time.